And bam, we are live. Yes. So,
Yay.
welcome everyone. It's me and Danielle. We're here. We're back.
It's been a minute.
Yes, it has. It's been a minute, but we are ready. We got a nice hot topic for tonight. So, we're talking about rest. Now, Danielle, what else? What is it about rest that we're gonna talk about
Oh my
today?
goodness. It's so funny because rest has been coming up nonstop. And today I made sure I made it a day of rest. And man, do I fight it. I know some of us, my sister and I, have two very different views of rest, right? Like she is all about let me get my nap, let me get my sleep. I, on the other hand, I'm like, if I could not sleep, like if I could find a way to not sleep and not die, like I wouldn't. Because
Right.
it's essential. It's essential,
Hmm.
right? It's something
I
that
feel
we
you.
need to do. And my go-to is to not want to rest. I could keep going and going and going and going. And that is just not healthy. I like because this is something I'm actively working on as I'm approaching this next trip around the sun. That it's like,
Yes.
what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, is it serving you? Is it serving you? And there's moments where we know we have to push ahead, right? Like
Right.
I made a choice to work some extra hours at work due to a bunch of extenuating circumstances. Great, short term, long term, not sustainable.
Right.
And even when it was rolling up on Monday, I was like, do I need to come in on Tuesday? Do I need to? Like, and the answer was no, you don't. We're good. We got over the hump and it's great.
Yeah.
Um, but it made me appreciate like, oh, you really do have to rest. Like resting is good and it is productive. It may not feel productive, but it is productive.
Very much. And I love what you were saying, how you and your sister have very different views of what rest is. What rest is to Mo is different from what rest is to you. So I'm the same way. Rest for me is, hold on, sorry. Rest for me is laying in my bed and binging either Chicago Fire or Chicago Med or The Rookie for like the thousandth time. That's rest. That's when I'm like I'm in my element. I'm enjoying myself or just watching a good Marvel movie or Harry Potter or something like that. I'm chilling.
Right.
But I'm like you. It's like if I wouldn't die from not sleeping,
Right?
sleeping is just, I don't get me wrong. I will enjoy a nice sleep. I'm not saying that I don't, but it's like I don't always want that to be part of my rest, which it doesn't always have to be, right? Because
And
rest
that
can be
is,
in
yes.
different ways.
Keep going.
No. So so for me, it doesn't always. If I'm saying I'm taking a day and I just want to rest, a lot of people think that I mean sleep, and it's like I really do not mean that because honestly, I'm a person where if I take a nap, I'm not waking up. Like I'm not gonna take. I used to be able to do like power naps and stuff when I was younger, but now if I fall asleep, maybe I'm going to sleep. And
Right.
so that means the rest of the night, on top of the menopausal insomnia I have from time to time, I'm not sleeping. So that it doesn't serve me.
Right. Right.
I mean, it doesn't. So, yeah.
It does, and that was the thing. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I've read because I've really been sitting with rest lately.
Yeah.
My ancestors and spirit guides keep telling me like minimum twice a week. Like rest, stop
Yeah.
and rest. And to the point where I laugh hysterically because I'm like, oh, you think you're funny when they give me that,
Right.
and it's going like, okay. And there are times that we do actually have to push forward, right? Where we're like, this is not the time to rest. And I think it's learning how to discern when it comes to rest. We can
That
think
part.
about discerning, we can discern if we're in touch with ourselves about what's for you, what's not for you, right? That's
Right.
easier. And it's, I think the rest piece is a harder thing with the way we're set up. Um, just as we are as a society, as we've evolved, we don't live in Europe where everybody closes down for lunch and come back. And I am not, this is not to talk about all this, but I mean, we don't live in a life cycle. We are not set up as the majority
Right.
where we shut down and say, you know, we go home for our big meal and a nap, and then we come back to work and give our all for a few more hours, and we get out later, and then we have a little bite to eat and go to sleep, you know, like,
Right.
or do whatever we do, but we have that midday reset.
Mm-hmm.
And I am learning, like, one, I have a history of horrible insomnia. That's how I got into Chinese medicine and acupuncture, as it changed my life that way. But I still struggle. Like, I'm not going to say that it, you know, and it depends what's going on during my life, right? You know, like if we got stuff going on and I'm thinking about a million things, of course I'm not sleeping. But
Mm-hmm.
understanding the not resting, one I came up with because I've switched my lifestyle. If we looked at where I was a year ago to where I am now, I am not working 80 hours a week. I work with intention, and I work 3 half days. I work
Mm-hmm.
3 half days, and I am still seeing patients and giving them my undivided attention when I am with them, but I am working with intention, and it's giving me more time to rest. And it felt really weird where even my sister was like, where I was like, I'm bored. And she was like, when was the last time you had this much time to yourself that you weren't on vacation? And I stopped and I was like, oh, snap. She's like, see, so just you got to adapt. I want
Yeah.
to take it a step further now. Is that I just did this beautiful continuing ed class a couple weekends ago, and it was on classical acupuncture and treating the channels, particularly the eight extraordinary vessels. And this is by Anne Cecil Sturman, who has written books, and she's beautiful and amazing and has taught me a lot. And then I listened to one of her podcast episodes where she was being interviewed, and it took it a step further about, you know, how we talk about intermittent fasting.
Right.
And people are like, yo, I intermittent fast. And her husband, who also teaches Chinese medicine through food,
Mm-hmm.
and qigong and tai chi, he was like, oh, you want to fast? How about we put the phone down? And so now one of the things I'm doing, because it really hit me hard, because I am somebody who is constantly multitasking. I am walking the dogs and listening to a podcast or catching up with a friend or reading or listening to a book. I listen to books left and right. It is the only way I can consume while trying to get as much done as I got to get done, right? It's up to me to run my house. It's just me. I don't have anything. So I am constantly multitasking. And my goal is just 20 minutes a day from after listening to them, not no music. Well, one, I've switched to more music. I'm like, you don't have to listen to a podcast. You do not have to have a thought running 24/7 in your
Yeah.
head.
Mm-hmm.
And that alone is rest. And it took me a little bit to figure that out, that like that is a form of rest because I'm still disassociating.
Mm-hmm.
And we like to think like, whoo, I'm doing all this. No, it's disassociation.
Yeah,
Sorry to burst everybody's bubbles if we don't
it
know.
is. It is.
It's I mean, but we Gen Xers are the queen of disassociators. We know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's we lived in books. We did not get internet until we were around 20, early 20s, right? Because I
We
know
were
I'm a
grown
later
up.
Gen X. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
grown up. So our we played in our minds all day. And now we just have different ways to disassociate. But like we're the queen and kings and monarchs, everything you want to call it that you identify
Yes.
as.
Yes.
We
Absolutely.
know how to do it. We know how to entertain ourselves. I mean we saw the jokes during the pandemic, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
about like this is what we've been training for this our entire lives. Stay
Sure
home.
were.
I know how to read a book. I
Right.
I don't, but that's also something that has happened for us, right? Is because we started staying home,
Mm-hmm.
we started spending even more time, right? Companies learned how, oh, you really are more productive being remote.
Yeah.
So, but unfortunately, and then people started working even longer hours because you're not leaving the office, right? And then
Right.
it's like, oh, what? You're at home. Yeah, but it's called boundaries. That's besides the
Mm-hmm.
point. But we started relying more and more on digital interaction. And I'm not saying, I mean, here we are. This is,
Yeah.
we're doing this, but it's understanding that, like, just, I'm starting with 20 minutes to just be
Mm-hmm.
like, no TV, no music, no, and just quiet,
Yeah.
which is, that is a form of rest. And that took me a little bit. And what I'm finding, like, rest for me is also going to the forest preserve because thank goodness I live in the western suburbs of Chicago and I got forest preserves everywhere. And walking in there is a form of rest, especially if I don't have a podcast on or music on. And I am literally, but I just go and I'm listening, and it's like, oh, the quiet. I'm listening to the trees. I'm listening to the river. I'm listening to the animals. I'm also
Mm-hmm.
listening for footsteps because we all know stay sexy, don't get murdered. Like, don't go into the forest. We all listened to My Favorite Murder enough times. So I'm listening for footsteps and all that behind me too. But the whole point being is we overconsume so much. I'm guilty of
We
it.
do.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
guilty of it. And learning how to
Mm-hmm.
rest because then the consuming is almost manic. And I've caught myself in it where it's like I'm looking for that next dopamine rush. Ooh, let me go find it.
Yes.
Let me find out what the tea is going on with, like, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
TikTok, Instagram, whatever. And I'm looking for this where I catch myself starting to scroll almost manically, like I'm just ugh.
Right.
That's when I throw my phone literally and I'm like, okay, go do something, go do something, you gotta, like, this is the feedback
Yeah.
needs to be broken.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And it's so funny. So for like the past like few days, I've been feeling led to sit by my altar, light a candle, and usually at night, light my candle, turn all my lights off, turn everything off, grab my sound bowl and just hit it and just breathe and
Mm-hmm.
sit in silence only to hear that sound. And it has been very interesting because it's almost like making my mind just take a break. Because if I'm just sitting in the dark by myself, my mind is
Mm-hmm.
still a million things a minute. I need to do this, I need to do that, blah 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 blah. But the intent of sitting in that kind of quiet where I'm tuned into a vibration and
Yes.
within myself, only having the light flicker of that candle, very relaxing, very demure, very cutesy, but it
You Jules.
I'm sorry, I had to throw that in there. But
Of
yes.
course.
So, that's my moment of like rest. To come down from the day, to sit down with myself. But I love that you are taking that with no phone, turn the TV off, and all that, and just be and detox. Because yes, this thing right here is hella addicting.
Oh my goodness. I don't know what
And
I'd do with my life without one, realistically.
right. And it's like I love that, the fast from all the BS that we subject ourselves to on a regular.
Yeah.
And I would say that we all need to do that more for ourselves. Of just put the phone down, turn the television off, just be for just a moment. Yes, play some music. It doesn't necessarily have to be quiet in where you are,
No.
but let it be a vibration. Let it be something that can nurture you and give you what you need for just those few minutes. Like when you were saying listening to music, now that's me. I'm a music person. I love music. I
Same.
listen to it all the time. When I go for my walks, I got my music. Rest in peace to Frankie Beverly because he be getting me through some walks.
Word.
Them happy feelings of Frankie Beverly. Oh my goodness. And I'm still mourning that man. I just, focus. Yes. But music is just something that can just take me away. And I love that about it. So I do feel at rest listening to music, even if it's music that's making me dance.
Oh,
It's good.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's what triggered. I was just saying before we got on here live how I just came off of a 3-day joy high. And it was because in the morning, a few days ago, I was taking Monday morning, I was dropping the dogs off at Moe's. And the one song that calms down my dog is Dream a Little Dream of Me.
Oh.
And so I was like, and we were stuck in traffic because it was rush hour.
Oh,
And
that's
it
funny.
was just one of those where we're like, okay, this is not going well. And so I had to put it on because she hates riding in the car. Like, I feel so bad. My friend who is an animal, well, she's an animal communicator, and she could hear, and she was telling me that, like, Lola actually has gone out a window, which is why she's so nervous about being in the car. And so it's like, okay. So I'm like, okay, let me put it on. And then it switched to Stevie Wonder and game over because then I was rocking like because I chose the mamas in the papas version of Dream a
Uh-huh.
Little Dream. And that's what came
Right.
up. And I was like, great. So then it just went to Stevie Wonder. And then I
Mm-hmm.
was like, yes, yes, we're rocking out in the morning, and then it went to something else, and then it made me think of songs I was listening to in high school
Mm-hmm.
because like somehow it got to Chain Gang, and then I was looking up the movie Cadence. Y'all remember the movie Cadence?
That's the
It's streaming
sound
on
of the
Tubi right now.
man. You know
Exactly.
you're saying, gang, don't you know that's the sound of the man? Get that working on the yes with
It's
Lawrence
on Tubi
Fishburne.
right now.
Yes,
Exactly. And Charlie Sheen before he was drinking tiger's blood, and
right.
he's a hot mess. But it is streaming on Tubi because that is my plan to do that. Like tomorrow, I'm like, we are watching Cadence and taking it back. Um,
Wow.
but it then got me putting on music from like being in the car as a kid and just like, and then it led to this and I know I've talked about it before, cultivation of joy.
Yeah.
And then it led to more joy and
Mm.
more joy. And it's been going for 3 days. And then it finally, and I even said, when I was talking to my therapist, I said, I know this is not sustainable. I'm not knocking it because I do know, like, I would love to live here, but that's not realistic. Like,
Right.
yeah, I hit the wall. I hit the wall. That I woke up this morning and I feel hungover, and I was like, okay, we're gonna rest without music because I was resting with music,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so beautiful. It's so great. And I was like, I have to take a page. I'm gonna take that note from you. I will put on singing bowls instead or something to be like, let's get that grounding first before we go to the joy,
Yeah.
because it just kept going and going. Like my face hurts and my abs hurt from laughing so much in the last 3 days.
Well, I think that's good. It was
And
probably very cathartic for you too.
it was. It absolutely was. And I realized I have not laughed that hard in probably 12 years.
Mm.
And then it got real close to tears because of the hysteria of just laughing, where it's like, okay. I was like, I just need a little, I need a rest. And it,
Yeah.
it, it needs to ebb and flow. But that's
Mm-hmm.
when I was like, oh, so this is why we need rest.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yes.
I allowed myself to open up into joy in a way I have not been in for a long time. And part of it made me sad because I was
Yeah.
like, dang, you really like stepped away. And that's the part of rest that people don't, I think we're missing, is that the
Mm-hmm.
rest allows joy to come in. Because if we're rushing around and it's like, okay, I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta go.
Yes.
I tell my patients all the time where they won't even, they come in to my office, go straight to the table, and they don't even want to say goodbye to somebody on the way out. They're just like off to my next thing, off to my next, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you just had 30 minutes of rest on the table. How, like, let it rest. Let it, and
Let it
sometimes we
cook.
gotta go.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Let it cook. Let it simmer for a minute. Sit in that.
sit in
And
that
that's
rest and see what comes out.
yeah, and that's so I love that you're thinking about that and being intentional with your patients because I tell my Reiki clients that. I tell my Reiki students that when you're done with that session, don't you pop your ass. Sit there. Sit in
Sit,
that. You better sit your
exactly.
sit in that. Because when we're at rest, when we're allowing ourselves to be totally at rest, we're at a point of basically surrender and allowance. And so now we're open to the possibilities of the joy that we've been looking for the divine ideas that we've been waiting to download, for the just the peace, the calm, whatever it is that we've been looking for. If we would just get still and allow, oh man, we can get so much
The
from that.
beauty that, right? The beauty unfolds
Yes.
if you let it. And
Yes.
that, I think, is my biggest takeaway, that it's just like every time I actually take the time to rest, I am blown away about what comes out.
Me too.
But
Yes.
and these are some things that we know. It's like if we're chasing the dollar, which we sometimes have to, unfortunately, right? We know
Yeah.
what everything costs right now.
Yeah.
And so we're like, okay, I'm doing the math. And do I have this and have this and have that? And then we get into this worry, right? We're in the survival mode. And this comes back to all the things like manifesting, like it's not just your health, it's manifesting. It's also sitting there and saying, I trust that the universe will support me no matter what. I
Yes.
trust that the Orishas will support me no matter what. I
Yeah.
trust that my ancestors support me no matter what. Whatever your faith is,
Mm-hmm.
if you start trusting it, because been there, done that. I mean, like, I get it. We get in the worry, right? And then it just gets us at a lower vibration. And to be able to turn around and say, if I just rest, because I was like, okay, I need to make some money. And then I was like, let me sign up to be a Grubhub driver. Let me go do this. And when it came
Mhm.
time, the amount of resistance I had,
Right.
where I was like, this is a smart move. I'm making money. And then I had to stop and say, no, you need to rest. That is not the answer, because then you're burning and you're burning, and eventually you burn. I mean, like I've already had burnout. I don't need to go back to it. I'm still rebuilding, and it would deplete all my resources. Even if I was like, oh, I'm going to do it for like 3 months, that's it. It'll
Right.
sit, and sometimes that's what we have to do. If we, but that wasn't the other my other option was to say pause, and then I started getting supported, and money started coming out of places, and things where I was like, oh, I did pay my bills. Oh, okay, my groceries. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting there doing nothing, but it's finding that balance of
Yes. Yes.
how to allow and rest so things can come forward, and still taking action without depleting yourself.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Because then that opens up to, you know, what do you believe in? What if you're saying that you trust the universe to supply your needs? You're saying that your Orisha, your ancestors, whomever and whatever you believe in, if you're saying I have my trust in my source, then you resting and allowing that to manifest, that's huge. That's huge. It's the
it's
surrender, it's the allowing. Hard to do, but oh, so necessary.
I don't want to talk
Whew.
about that. I don't want
I
to talk
know.
about that.
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about
Yeah,
it.
but it's so true. And yes, it's hard to rest when you've got a million things.
Yeah.
Like today, I really did sit with, okay, this is my last day of my 46th year. I mean, well, we're getting it close to the last 20 because I was born in the evening. So we're closing in on 24 hours. And I was like, I want to clean my house because I'm ready to let go of so many things. Like, one is time, just
Mhm.
period. But two, I was looking at things and I'm like, why am I holding on to this? And I want to let it go to make space for more things with my
Yeah.
birthday tomorrow, that I'm like, I want to
Right.
start the years to be able to, like, there is space for you to come in. There is space for this, because if I'm holding on to all this other crap, and our closets are representations of what's going on in our heads.
I don't want to
I
talk
mean, I
about
don't want to talk about it that much, but I'm gonna be honest and call myself out on it, because my
it. Yeah.
closet, I'm like, my closet, it will be great for a minute, and I will
Hmm.
tackle all of it, and then I come back, and I'm like, oh, so I just threw a bunch of stuff in here and was like, I'll get it later. And then I don't,
Yeah.
and it was like, okay, I really want to start doing this. I've been holding on to my daughter's memory foam mattress in my closet.
Mm.
She moved away 3.5 years ago. She's not coming back. Why am I holding on to this mattress? Like, I mean, realistically, at
Hmm.
one point, I mean, she'll come and visit, but when she comes and visit, she's like, "Mom, don't get it out. Like, that's just too much work to pull the mattress out."
Hmm.
And so it's like, oh, right. Realistically, when she does come home, she stays with her friends. She stays with me, but she's like, no, I'm gonna sleep on the couch, or no, I'll just sleep in the bed, or I'll go stay at Auntie Mo. Like,
Right.
so why am I keeping a full side? I mean, that tells you how big my closet is and why it's a problem of clothes. But like I got a full size mattress sitting in there, right? And it's just like
Mm.
I want to clean it out. But then the other part of it was like, you are so tired. Rest. And I opted to rest, and I have zero regrets that I spent my day resting instead.
Yeah.
And if I want to spend a little bit of my morning cleaning tomorrow, great. If I don't want to, I don't have to. The good thing about being grown, right? We get to decide what we want to do now.
Um,
And I have these conversations, that like present Danielle makes sure the dishes are done so that future Danielle gets up in the morning and it's like, oh, thanks, old Danielle, for taking care of everything for me.
right.
I didn't have to
Yes.
see a sink full of dishes. Plus, we all know you don't want to be leaving stuff in your dishes. You want to clean, you want to make sure you got an empty sink before you go to bed. But those
Mm.
things, because then there are times where it's like, it's late. We all do it, where we're like, I just don't have it in me.
Yeah.
And I have to say, okay, so future Danielle, when you get up tomorrow, you could not be mad at past Danielle. Like you are tired and you are choosing to not do that, whatever it is.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's a good way to practice forgiveness because if you frame it up ahead of time, right? That's because it's something I've been working on forgiveness. I've asked a bunch of people lately about forgiveness and like, how do you forgive? And because in my head, I'm like, I've never forgiven. I just accept what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I cut, you know what I'm saying? Like I cut my losses. Oh, you played me dirty like that? Okay, it is what it is. Bye. I've accepted that you did it. It doesn't mean that I've forgiven it.
Right.
And there's a difference. And it's something, and I'm like, why am I not forgiving and learning how to do that? But part of this whole setting my intention with like, okay, am I leaving the dishes or am I not folding the laundry tonight or scrubbing the tub, filling whatever, taking out the garbage.
Mm-hmm.
It's allowing me to have compassion for that person. Like the next morning where I'm like, oh, right, I didn't do that. And then I'm like, but you were having a rough day.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Which then I am practicing forgiveness versus just going like, I fine.
Mm-hmm.
Go take out the garbage.
Oh God.
I know I
Forgiveness,
entertain myself.
compassion, patience, all that. All of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So rest.
Yes, please. And I'm gonna show you all the card that I pulled
No
before
joke.
our conversation. And this came from this deck right here, Angels and
Perfect.
Ancestors by Kyle Gray. And the card is Autumn, Release the old and
Release the
rest.
old.
So there you go.
Rest.
There's your message.
Rest.
Yes. All right. So I think we're done.
I think so too.
Yeah. Well, thank you all who joined. Thank you all who are watching this on the replay. Don't forget to like, to comment, to share, and we will see you all next time. Say bye, Danielle.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, y'all.